Hey guys, what is going on? Today's Galaxy of Heroes video is going to be about us just crying because we didn't join GAC. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to help you guys that did join GAC and didn't fail like I did. And we're going to talk about squads and the meta and what DCs can go with what squads. We all know the meta right now is the attacker crons, but can we, shortchange things and still get stuff done? So that's what this video is going to be all about. Let's go ahead and get into it and help you guys plan. So with this, we're not even going to use the game. It's always funny whenever this happens, but the best tool that we've got is, SWGoH. So I'm going to just talk to you guys about this preset that I have loaded. There will be a few changes here and there because I found that the data just wasn't clear. So again, I'm going to just go through the filters. I want to make sure that we know what we're looking at and why we're filtering out what we're filtering out, right? So sometimes when I've done some of these things before, people just go, well, people are just making mistakes and stuff like that. That's true, especially with the opening of a new season. We're still figuring things out. Yes, absolutely. I agree there. But that being said, we should be able to still glean some stuff from it and be able to interpret it, right? And I think once people figure it out, they will get better at it, of course. So the first thing that we've done, right, I call this the GAC squads that have changed. So what we're doing here is we're showing only the latest season in 3v3. I don't want cleanups. The reason why I don't want cleanups is because people start throwing stuff at it and they start going crazy with it, right? They start just trying to burn cooldowns, right? I don't want any of that. I just want to know how many times did the squad hold on the first time, right? Me being the guy that says, hey, I'm going to send my best squad in and it doesn't work. I also removed GLs from this. Again, most of these are GLs. Most people realize GL versus GL is an equal trade-off. So long as you know that this works, then it shouldn't be a big issue. I know that there are times where we just say, hey, I don't know if this works kind of thing. But I wanted to exclude the GLs from this specifically. And again, it's comparing like by like data too. So we shouldn't get any issues with that. I also, picked the team. Some teams I'm a little bit more flexible on, like Ray, who has, a little bit more wiggle room with some of it. The other ones I'm a little bit more like, hey, this is what we normally see. I'm going to go with it. And then I've selected all of Kyber. Now, the reason why I'm selecting Kyber isn't to try to be elitist. It's just to know that, again, these are people that have good mods. These are people that usually, are studying the game, so to speak. They know what counters what, right? If you start going into Carbonite, you're really limited on roster, construction. You start getting some Gear 12 GLs in there. No discredit to people, but again, we want to figure out what's actually working against good squads. And that's why I picked all of Kyber. And then, yeah, I always select, hey, they have to have an attacking datacron. They have to have a defending datacron. Again, we're in Kyber. That should be kind of a given. I know in the lower tiers of Kyber, it's not. But I want to select stuff that obviously has DCs because we want to know what the impact is on the meta. Okay, so as you guys can see here, specifically for this one, this is any set. I don't even know what this is. We'll just call it the purple set. Whatever one. I think it's 24, right? So at 24, set 24, any non-GL counter against Lord Vader was a 48%, right? Roughly a 49% in 8,609 battles. Not bad, right? That's pretty good. That we saw a lot of bolt crons come up. There was some really good stats for Lord Vader, like protection and health and all those other things you could stack on it. And unfortunately, you could see Bo-Katan just still kind of got priced out. The big thing that people were figuring out was Maz team can kind of go in there and get the work done. So let's now compare it to Lord Vader with the attacker cron. So again, this is the long attacker cron that's down here. What you'll see here is, again, you're starting to see a little bit more pricing out, right? So you see about 11-point drop there from 48 to 37%. Still about the same banners, but what's really happening is Maz Kanata is having a harder and harder time getting through the kills. So just know that there's still a decent chance, especially when you start to look into the data. Like there are some squads out here that have, an 80%, that have, I saw some low sample sizes down here that have 100%. But yeah, that again, we're going to kind of go with maybe that was just a fluke accident. Maybe if you run that battle 10 or 15 more times, right, it starts to get aligned with this like roughly 43 to 45% range. But I just want to show, like, by adding the long text attacker cron, even if you had a decked out, set 24 or whatever set we're on, DC on, your Lord Vader, it kind of pays. You're going to start to limit out, and you might even get lucky with a hold or two. So just be aware of that. Now, I also want to look at, if you guys watch my DC video on the DC analysis, you guys might have heard me say, like, there might be a chance that the short text attacker cron might perform just as well. I'm here to say that, yeah, if you wanted to compare, right, like it's pretty much no different than putting on a purple set Datacron. So what I'm talking about here is that, hey, whenever there's a debuff that lands, you gain 2% offense, and doubled if it was dispelled. So again, non-GLs, this doesn't seem to really play a fact. It kind of boosts back up your Maz Kanata scores. You can even start to kill it with some of your, Bo-Katans as well. And yeah, Bane is in there. He kind of goes through all this because he does have such a lack of, debuffs landing on him in the beginning, or, regardless, just from his kit. But just know that there is about, again, overall, that long text, I think you're going to see that 11-point drop, and you start to get into a really precarious situation with a lot of the counters that get thrown at it. Please don't try Bo-Katan against it. You have like a 9% chance of winning here. It doesn't look great. So let's go on to the next one. The next one I saw a lot was Jabba the Hutt, and there seemed to be like a little bit of some variety. So this first one is, again, the purple set. You could see here is a 39% for him for this set, or this last week, with 2,518 battles. The predominant stuff, and I know what we're seeing here, right, guys? Wampa doesn't work. We needed that Datacron. That Datacron has since dusted. 199 people trying this is just probably not acceptable at this point. But that being said, I say that in jest, right? And a lot of people always like point to that as like, well, it's skewing the data. Yeah, it is. But again, we're comparing like to like data. So Wampa won't work there, right? But we do have some good stuff that still is working. You're really limited. It looks like Seer SK Malicos is still working against, the purple set. But then as we start to move into it, we see a decent drop again. It's only 6%, but this is for the attacker long text. Now, most people are finding themselves, kind of pretty frugal with those attacker long texts. You do end up doing some decent damage with Boosh, but you haven't really knocked out too many counters with that long text. So I did end up looking up that support text, so the long support text right here. And that does knock it back down a little bit more. So again, if you were to compare the set before, right, we see about, an 8% drop in success rate due to the dispelling of debuffs and stuff or dispelling of buffs, and maybe giving them some debuffs as well. The big one that seemed to take a big hit was, your Queen Amidalas. And I just want to say again, like, I did look up the Boba, and I did exchange Boba with, I think it was Boosh. Again, this is what, I'm sorry guys, I don't know why my antivirus always kicks in like when I'm filming a video, but I did look into, the FDC a little bit. You're going to see rates really close to this, at least from the comps that I was looking at early. So it's up to you. I've seen some people get really creative. I know Boba's doing some crazy stuff on offense. I know he's kind of a one trick pony on defense. If you know what you're using against him, it's an easy 59. So just be careful with that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to run this, vanilla comp, then you could be looking at that's a pretty good success rate on defense, right? So just know that, and support cron works fantastic. You guys can keep that attacker cron and use it for something else that probably really needs it. Okay. Speaking of what really needs it, let's look at Rey. This is a phenomenal one. So again, this is the purple set, and this one I did just limit it to Rey and Ben. Again, that third slot is so pivotal, and it could be so many different things that I decided, hey, let's just kind of keep it open. So we have a 68% here on kind of the win rate for Rey's with the purple set. Now, as soon as we add that attacker cron, this is phenomenal. We drop about 30%, right? Like we drop 30 points here, and we take big hits on all, many of the off meta, non-GL counters with this on defense. We knew that this was going to be the case. We knew that that this was a really strong data cron for Rey. But this attacker cron, I'd say if you have only one, it's probably going to go to Rey, right? Like she is phenomenal with it. There's not too much that's killing her with high success. You have to price yourself really high with the Star Killer plus Terra Malicos team to really have a shot. And 72% is a pretty good shot, but there's also a decent shot that does fail, right? So I'm sure if we looked deeper into that data, that's do you have the triple Omicrons, or whatever the case is, or do they have the attacker datacron as well? So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's playing with, whether or not it's successful or not. But Rey with attacker cron, huge difference from, and this is impressive too, because the purple set really actually had a lot going for Rey, right? And Ufus in general. But to see this big of a difference, again, I would say this should be one of your biggest priorities for that attacker long ticks. Okay, the next one I wanted to look at is Queen Amidala. Now, Queen Amidala, I saw her placed a lot, and I got a little bit of flack for using Bane early on. Again, I'm just going to be outright. Bane against Queen Amidala is a slam dunk, right? So that's why you see that I did not include Bane, because it's a slam dunk. It kind of, if you're going to use Bane here, it doesn't really matter what datacron that they're using. It's going to win. And so long as, again, relics are the same and all that good stuff. What I wanted to look at then is, okay, so if that's almost like your Galactic Legend versus Galactic Legend, then let's not include it. Let's actually just look at what else has some success. So again, with the purple set, we could see that Great Mothers is up at 72%. We could see that stuff like Inquisitors is even up to 60%. That's a coin flip, yes, but if you play it right, you get the that clear. You can even do mirror matches for pretty close to 80%, right? So there's a lot of stuff that could play into this, but decent shot, at least with that set on defense. So then the first one that I looked at was, hey, let's see what support cron does. And support cron, you could see that's a 15% drop in the overall with 454 battles. It starts to drop, some of those numbers, like the Inquisitors, they really drop fast. Funny enough, it seems like Gas 501st kind of bumps up a little bit, but yeah, there's just a lot that this is one where, again, if you had a long support cron and you wanted to add it to Queen Amidala, you're even looking at limiting down, a 72% to a 60% on Great Mothers. And I fought one, I think that was also this, and it is pretty tough, because you can't keep a taunt up, right? So like all of a sudden, like if Queen Amidala just decides to mass in on Great Mothers, you're in trouble, right? Like there's no really coming back from that. So that's an interesting one. Now I also wanted to see what happens with long text and attacker long text, and here's where you can see the power of the long text, right? Again, if you bane it, no problem. You're gonna win, no issues on it. But I mean, you start to see some drops in a lot of these squads. A lot of these squads aren't going to be able to hang. We see big drops in, Gas 501st. It's funny enough, it seems like, this super squad, which is needed now in every battle that we do, Seer, Starkiller, and Malicos does have a really good shot at winning at it. And I'm sure these are all long text attackers as well. But you can start to see, like, you really start to, the Great Mothers comp, this is very comparable, but like if you start to throw in other versions of it, you really start to dwindle your chances of winning cleanly. And yeah, there's just no shot for the Sith trio on this. So I found this all interesting. Again, going from 30% to basically a 10% drop. Again, is that worth it? Do you have enough for the attacker long text? If you do, I would say, this is a squad where you're going to force them to use Bane. And if you haven't noticed, we have a lot of squads where people want to use Bane at. So something for you guys to keep in mind. And then the last one that I want to look at here is Ahsoka Tano. So Ahsoka Tano is an interesting one. Again, I actually chose to only just put in Ahsoka Tano. I didn't want to limit it to Ezra. I know some people use Ezra with Rey. I know some people don't. But if you start to even just look at, like, we'll just start to kind of go in here. As soon as you add Ezra to like set 24, the purple set, you could see like your success rate goes down dramatically with non-GLs. And so not a bad call, if you're using set purple set. Again, I don't know which set it actually is, but if you're using purple set, this isn't a bad call so long as you're using Ezra. If you don't use Ezra, you're bumping their success rate up quite a bit. And I think that's known. Again, the idea would be then to boost up your race. So hopefully you can kind of get that going. So then I decided, let's look at obviously what I saw the most, which was the tank long text with her. So the tank long text immediately takes this from 62% to almost, like less than 40%. So you're seeing a significant drop there too. And again, if we kind of bring in Ezra, right, we see a little bit more of a drop with being able, what we can do with, the soft counter or the, the non-GL counter. So it's worth it, I think, to bring in that tank text. But more so importantly than whatever Datacron set that you bring in, I would say that it's probably more important that you end up bringing in Ezra. Unless you think that for whatever reason you can stomp your opponent on Rey, Ezra, Ben, right? Which is a viable, answer in all this. But those are the squads that I want to look at. Again, those are kind of the meta that we did. This video went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but hopefully this was good information. Hopefully it was fun for you guys to see. And thanks for letting me continue to make videos for you guys and that you guys watch them. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more of this content. And we'll see you guys in the next one.